recording. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. So I'll start sharing my screen. 1 second. Let me know if you can see my screen.
We
Yes.
can see.
Okay, perfect. Since I'll be switching from the PowerPoint to other tools all the time, I will go into presentation mode. So we'll go through the slides like this. First of all, who am I? For the people who doesn't know me, I'm Julian. I'm based in Berlin, and I work for Roboyo. I've been the UiPath chapter lead for Berlin, I think, for the last, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months. Yeah, and today we want to talk about Orchestrator API, Swagger, Postman, Test Manager API, maybe a little bit of PowerShell. Because I talked to some people and I realized that most of them really haven't worked with Orchestrator API. I will also talk to you about later what will be next on the chapter, but already that you know, we got 3 more events. I plan to do 1 event each month. So the next one will be in May, Studio Tips and Tricks and UiPath Insights. In June, there will be one which will be on site in a beer garden. Happy if you join. And in July, I will continue with agentic testing. If you got any topics that you are interested, let me know. Then I can also put them on the agenda. Also, if any one of you wants to contribute, yeah, please let me know that, yeah, then you can contribute. Okay, so first I also want to remind you of the UiPath Insider portal. Not sure if everybody uses that, but Insider portal is really nice to get in touch with all the new stuff. This is the page, as you can see. There are on the right side monthly recordings from the product teams from UiPath with their newest features. This happens once a month, and you can also watch the recording from the previous month. And then there is private previews, public previews, and general availability. You can see the roadmap from the new stuff that is coming up. You can, as you can see, I joined the wait list, for example, for Agent Builder. There are public previews, which are accessible to everyone. And this is a really nice way to get in touch with the new sources because more or less it's a guided tour. Okay, let's start with REST APIs. So this is, I want to keep it pretty basic. So what's the idea? So as a client, I want information from a server. How does that work? I send a HTTP request with a method that I'm using. And via the API, I get a response in a specific format. What would a URL, since we're working with the internet, what would the URL look like? So as you can see, this is the structure of a URL, and it starts with the protocol, continues with the subdomain, a domain, the port that you're using, path, and the query, which is the question mark, and the parameters for the query. As I said, you are using different HTTP methods. These are the ones that you're using. I would say all of them are straightforward. Get is the method that you use to receive information. Post is the one to create information. Put is the one to replace information. Update, patch is very similar to put, but it's kind of, you don't want to change the entire information, only part of it. and delete, simply to delete information. In your response, you also get a HTTP status code. This is actually the summary of all the different codes which there are. To simplify it, one is an informational request. So the request was received and it's continuing the process. Two at the beginning is a successful request. 3 is a redirect. 4 is a client error, so a problem on your side if you're a client. And 5 is a server error. On the right side, you can see, I would say, the most popular ones. For example, if you do a successful GET request, you would get 200. If you would do a successful POST request, you would get a 201. Feel free to have a look at this later on. I will share all these slides. If you're interested, I think this is like a nice cheat sheet. Okay, so talking about Orchestrator API. And when you want to use Orchestrator API, it makes sense to use Swagger. How do you actually, Swagger just makes it more accessible, the API, to play around with it. It's a specific kind of UI for the API. In the top, you can see what the URL looks like in general. So it's if you're using cloud, on-prem is actually quite similar. You're using the cloud, orchestrator name, tenant name, orchestrator, and then you simply add Swagger. If you want to do that, let's see. Okay, that's it. What can you do with it now? I want to show to you some basic methods and just to give you a feeling how it's working. So this is Swagger for Orchestrator API. Now you can see all the different things that you can do. For example, for folders, you can delete a folder, you can edit the folder, you can get folders. And once you scroll through that, you can see that there are a lot of things that you can do. Jobs, you can get the jobs, you can get a single job. Feel free also to have a look at this. I've used that quite a lot. You can actually get all the information from Orchestrator. What I want to do right now is I want to play a bit around with this. To use this, playing around with it, first you need to click on Authorize. And now, under Assets, I want to create an asset. I click here. Okay, what does it say? It requires a permission. The assets create permission. OAuth requires these scopes, orchestrator assets write. Now you can also have a look at the general model of the asset. So what information is stored in the asset. And let's simply try it out, I would say. So this is an example value. Creates an asset. What's my folder or organization unit ID? I want to do it for this folder. So my folder ID, wait a second. Okay, I saved it here. So my folder ID is this one. Okay, and you can see if I check the model, what do I need? You can see to create an asset, I need a name, a value scope. Here you can see the different values which are allowed, global or per robot. Value type, you can see what are the different types which are allowed. So right now I only need a name and value scope, but I want to do something more. So this is like the default value. I would erase all of that. And I want to create an asset, very basic. So this is the one that I want to create. Simply hit on execute. Okay, now you can see the curl. So what's in the header, what's actually the content, or in the body. 201, as we saw before. Here 201 is created. All right, great. Response body, I created this asset. And if I simply check my assets now, you can see that I created this asset. So this was the first method that we wanted to use, which is post. The next one is get a single asset based on its ID. From the response from the first one, we can see that the ID was this one. All right, so let's try it out. Okay, so I try it out. I supply the key and the folder ID. I hit on execute. Okay, that's my response body. And as you can see, just using the ID and this endpoint, which I was just talking about, I received the asset with the name XYZ. So this was our second endpoint for assets. So first one was post, I created one. The second one was get, I got a new one. And the next one that I want to do is put one. All right, so I want to edit an asset. Again, I need to provide the key. Is there another way to find the key? Yes, you can simply click on edit of the asset, and up here you can see the ID. Okay, so try it out again. I enter the key, I enter the folder ID, and this time I will add something. All right. So I want to keep it the same name, or it should, I don't want to change the name. The value right now is anything. Now I want to change the value to everything. I provide the name, the scope, the type, the string value, and ID. What you can see now is that this, I think, is a bug. So when you check the model, it only says name and value scope. But if I only provide name and value scope, and for example, the string value, it won't work. It asks for the value type as well, so I have to provide that. And if you don't supply the ID, it won't work. So this is also, like, I would say, try and error a little bit, but you get a feeling when you work around with it. Okay, I hit that. I get it 200, so it worked out. Okay, let's see. I refresh. Okay, value changed. And the last one that I want to try is simply to delete an asset. Okay, try it out. Provide the ID from the asset and also the folder ID. Okay, hit on execute. Okay, what do I get? 204. What's a 204? 204 is no content, okay, which is fine. And what I can see now, I refresh and I deleted the asset. So why did I show you this? I just wanted to show you that what are the different methods, how do they work, how does Swagger work? as you could see, now I want to show you some more other things. The next thing that I want to show to you is folders, the folders endpoint. So now we had a look at post, get, put, delete. What else did we learn? That this is the value that we provide. Usually there's also an example value. This is the model. You can just have a look at the model because this is all the information that you either have to provide or that you receive. Yeah, and next I want to look at the folder endpoint to play around with the query parameters. So I just want to look at this endpoint. So I click on try it out. And I'll just hit execute. So now let's look at the response body. It says OData count. So what is that? The endpoint, when you look at this, it says OData folders. It gets me all the folders. Sorry if I do that. I think you don't see the bar up here. So yeah. So I received all the folders now in my get folders. You can see it's 7, and now each of the folders, like this is one folder, this is one folder, this is one folder, and you can see all that information for these folders, like what's the display name, I don't know, is there a description, what's the ID, etc. And now what I want to look at is all these parameters, which are just changing your search. I would say the easiest ones are these two. For example, what does it say? Top limits the number of items returned from a collection. Here you can see what the get method looks like, or the request URL. So if I hit on top, I enter 5. Okay, instead, this still says 7, but I only get 5 back. And you can see that here, as I earlier mentioned, like the question mark with the query parameters changed. So this is just to give back the top 5. This is to skip a few. This is if you want to order something by time. So ascending or descending. Select is if you don't want to get all the information. And for example, I only want the display name. I could do it like this. Okay, instead of getting back all the information, I just want display name. Filter is if you, for example, want a display name to have a specific name, or yeah, let's maybe just do it like this. We could say, okay, display name equals shared, which then should only be one folder, okay? And then it only returns the one where the display name is shared. You can also do stuff like contains, yeah. Expand is something special when you want to access information which isn't on the first level, but also on the second level. So this doesn't apply here. Yeah, maybe I'll find another thing where this applies. Yeah, here, for example, first level, second level. And then you first have to expand this one to access this information. All right. So this actually concludes my short demo on Swagger of the Orchestrator API for post, get, pull, put, delete, and for folders, the get endpoint plus parameters. So what we just did, I authorized via my credentials, but I was already logged into Orchestrator. What you can also do is you need a bearer token. There are 2 ways to get a bearer token. these are the ways which I will show you. One is where you can get a personal access token, and you can, I will show that, and also you can set up an external application, which isn't, suited to your, okay, I don't know the word, but the personal access token is personal. So I could create one. So how do I create one? Here, then I hit here, preferences. Then here I could ask for a personal access token, generate new token. I would call this one X, expiration date, resources, search. All right. Now I have to see which API will I be using. As you can see, it's right now we're only looking at Orchestrator API, but there are also other resources. And now once you choose that, you can choose for which resources do I have access and what kind of access. The best one is probably this one, and then you can get the read, write, and it's always like the most general one, and read and write. For example, like this. Okay, then I get this access token, I can copy it and I can use it. The other way to get a token, or what you usually use when you don't want to make it personal, you could set up an external application. How do you do that? So you click on admin, then you click on external application, then you hit on add application, then you can enter any name. Then you could say it's a confidential application. You need to add scopes, application scopes, Orchestrator API application scopes. And for the things that we just did, we would hit Orchestrator assets on Orchestrator folders, save it, add it, and then you get a client ID and client secret. You would need to copy that and use it later. I will delete that now. I already set that up for now. So this is probably the way I'm using it the most. And yeah, this concludes my short intro to this one. Okay, can we use that now? Okay, Postman. So Postman. Postman is actually to test APIs. For example, here I actually set up everything so we can use Postman instead of using, for example, the Swagger. What did I have to provide? I chose the method, the URL, inclusive the endpoint. I had to provide the header and the body. This is grant type client credentials. These are the client ID and client secret from the external application, which is here. And if I run this, I get an access token. And this access token I can use to now, with a different endpoint, actually to get the folders, can hit it. They are not authorized, which is weird. Okay, let's wait and see.
Your permissions, because that right now you have 4 assets. That is your current permission. You need to place or.folders.read as well.
Sorry, say it again.
It's actually your permissions at this time. So specifically within your Postman, not within your API key. So if you go back to Postman,
yeah,
you go to your scope. Do you see how it says or.assets? You need to
yeah.
include 4 dot folders. There you go. It happens to me all the time. No worries.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Okay. Say it again. Thanks. All right. And now. All right. Now it's working. Thanks. And now you can see, actually, we're doing the same as we did with Swagger, but now with Postman and with an external application instead of my credentials. So yeah, what I wanted to tell you also about Postman is, if you haven't worked with it, you can later have a look. There is one very nice beginner video, I would say. This is this one. It's Postman Beginners Course. Yeah, it gives a pretty good introduction to it. And also the UiPath add-ins guide, which you can also just click on, and then it will lead you here, where you can also read through all of that stuff. And yeah, this is something you can do if you have time, which is nice to get started with it. All right. So now what did we do? We did Orchestrator API with the different methods. We did the different query parameters. We did external application, personal access token. We did Postman. Of course, there are other ways also to do it. I want to show you another one, which is, for example, PowerShell. PowerShell, I could do it like this. Okay. I would provide a body. I would do the invoke REST method, FimDelete. I would provide the URI, method post, which content type, and the body. And if I run this, I get the run it again. I get the bearer token again. This is actually the same as we just did with the same as we did with Postman, but just wanted to show you something, a different way to do it. All right, and now we use that to enter it here. All right. Okay. Okay, so hit on run. What's wrong now? Not authorized. Okay. I think there's maybe a typo. Let's wait.
I think you delayed something before the token. There were one word.
There was one word, and I didn't delete it. Okay, let's try it. I just did it. Okay. Okay, I don't know what is wrong now, but it's fine. I mean, like, this is, I don't know, but usually I tried that earlier and it worked. So maybe I'm just missing to delete something. But I think you get the idea. Try that out yourself. This should actually work. Okay, but since, yeah, I think you get what I mean, and it shouldn't be a problem right now. Okay, so again, personal access token, external application, Postman. PowerShell as well. And then there are, as I said, there are also other APIs. And this one is for if you want to do, for example, the Test Manager API, and you want to use Swagger, it actually works the same. You just add Swagger at the end. What you can see in comparison, it doesn't really, yeah, they didn't put the same effort into Orchestrator API because in the Test Manager API as they did in the Orchestrator API, because I think not everyone is using Test Manager API, but a lot of people are using Orchestrator API. So if there is a missing description, don't worry, here it is. But if you, for example, go here, there is no actually description really. Yeah, and what you can do now in the end is maybe even try it yourself within Studio. More or less, it would look something like this. You could try it like this, get the Orchestrator HTTP request, a method, an endpoint, and a payload, depending on what you're doing. Maybe try it with the get folders first. And you could also try it with a Python script, get the bearer token, get the folders. Feel free to play around. What are some links that I want to share with you? This is Automation Cloud API Guide. I think it's always helpful to read the documentation. And this is OData notation, which is actually important for the endpoints which we were using. Let's have a look. If you want to build like more advanced API calls, yeah, just scroll through that. It's also very nice and helpful, I think. And yeah, and this, as I said, this should be a basic overview of the basic features. Feel free to play around. If you got any questions, let me know. You can always contact me. These will be our next sessions. I already told you at the beginning. Yeah, as I said, if you got any topics that you want to talk about, let me know. I started with these because, for example, I think nobody really talks about insights. Agentic, we will do in July. If you want to do Agent Builder or Maestro, just let me know. We can also do that. And yeah, for now, I know I set up the call for 1 hour, but I think I want to do monthly calls and maybe half an hour because 1 hour is very long. And yeah, I just want to get you the basics of all these topics. Okay, so I'll stop sharing. Are there any questions? Or are there any feedback, for example, or any other topics that you want to see in the future, or any ideas where you want to contribute? Let me know. All right, so if there's nothing you want to ask, then
Sorry,
yeah.
just a small question related to the test manager versus the regular Orchestrator API. So
Yeah.
at least my current understanding, just to make sure, is in order for someone to see the general output of the test manager from like a data perspective, they would need to just explore the test manager Swagger versus the Orchestrator Swagger, correct?
Yeah.
Or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then so from a practical perspective, right? Perhaps just because I joined a little bit later, are there different aspects related to test manager when it comes to required headers? Like, is it a very similar permission structure to Orchestrator, or can you utilize, for example, the way that I always envision it is get your bearer token utilizing your Orchestrator API keys, and then iterating through the folders to then capture those IDs for further calls, because that they're needed as headers. Is that the same thing that is being found within Test Manager, or is it a little bit more open, or I guess like less cumbersome in terms of like requirements or headers?
So I haven't used Test Manager API that much. My point of showing it was actually just that you know that there are also other APIs instead of only the Orchestrator one. But one of my colleagues is using it, and feels like it works more or less the same. But and also the other point why I wanted to show you Test Manager API is that you can see, depending on if they provided all the definition for Swagger, that it looks really neat or not, and that you don't get distracted if it doesn't look very neat. Yeah, but I would assume it's more or less the same, to be honest. For example, with the Access external application, maybe just let's have a look. Right. Okay, so external application. If I would set one up for Test Manager and I add scopes, I would provide it here. And yeah, something like this doesn't make sense, this one. And then I'm pretty sure it would work the same. I would need to try it out, but it feels like very similar. I don't think they would change it that much. All right. Any other questions?
No, thank you. At least not for me.
All right. So if there are no other questions, thanks for joining. Also leave me a message how you liked it, and if you have any topics that you want to see in the future. All right, cool. Thanks a lot and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.